What is the future of work? When it comes to the study of bodies and their movements, technology will have the greatest impact on what the future looks like. As I thought about the future of kinesiology in particular, a few images came to mind. Wearable computers accurately measuring muscle exertion and the efficiency of our breathing with every step. Artificial intelligence that reads big data sets across populations and accurately scans for patterns and anomalies to improve diagnostic work. Chips implanted in our bodies to track our movements? Well, no, not really. Though as the parent of teenagers, I have to admit there's some attraction to that idea, even just for the GPS function. In general, talking about the future of work and about how to prepare students for that future is daunting, not only because of technology. There's a tremendous sense of excitement and a sense of great possibility, but also real fear. How can we, as educators, possibly feel equal to the challenge of getting future professionals ready for long and successful careers at a time of such massive transitions and upheaval? And it is not as if we have many models for this thinking. From what I can see, the relatively few general discussions of the future of work within educational contexts tend to fall into a couple of categories. Futuristic visions that are too vague and conceptual to help us with our need to adapt curricula in how we teach, and frameworks that, in trying to be concrete and directive, instead become overly simplified and reductive. For myself, reading and thinking about the future of work in the midst of a pandemic has been a challenge, but also an opportunity. So I want to first thank the American Kinesiology Association and my Tulane colleague, Lainey Dornier, for this. I don't have a roadmap, but hopefully can give the beginnings of an approach and framework for this thinking. There are many different ways to interpret and analyze the phrase future of work. And there are even some scenarios in which most work goes away. Artificial intelligence is replacing much of the analysis and diagnostic work done by humans. Jobs are disappearing even now, a shift that will only accelerate as machine learning improves. And further globalizations and improvements in technology also mean that more types of work can be done effectively by people in other countries for much lower wages. Clearly, government policy regulation and legislative action will have a huge impact on how trends such as contract work and deunionization play out, as well as in how new technologies are used to support or hurt workers. I made a couple of big assumptions for this talk. First, that work will continue to exist, though in altered forms. And second, that work is important for our lives and that many people find much of their fulfillment and purpose through their work. So what does the future of work look like? We will forever live with the threat of pandemic and regional or even worldwide upheaval. The reality of our own work is that we must accustom ourselves to permanent vigilance and preparedness for whatever might come. The workplace of the future is a riskier and less stable place. In addition to the possibility of new pandemics, our world is shifting in other ways as well. Climate change and resulting global migrations brought about by weather-induced starvation, social unrest, both domestic and international, these things will all affect how and whether or not we work. They certainly are doing so now. And regardless of short-term trends or government interventions, I also believe that employment overall will become even more unstable because of globalization and because of the power of the private sector relative to that of governments. It isn't too difficult to predict a future of worldwide continued economic and political polarization. On the upside, I also believe that it will be a place of expectations and greater accountability around equity and inclusion of all kinds, particularly racial. And then I come to technology and data. There are hugely disparate perspectives on what technology and data will bring to the future of work. On the one hand, there will be much greater use of artificial intelligence, sensors, and big data to support or drive diagnostic work. Think about what it will be like for your students when each of their clients generates data for study and diagnosis from wearable computers that then get included in massive data sets of hundreds of thousands or even millions of people. And imagine the depth and accuracy of analysis of their health and the use of their bodies that will result. At the same time, and this is true in almost all fields, technology and data will also increase the capacity of employers to monitor and control worker behaviors. Data and algorithms will more frequently be used to judge productivity and performance. And with machine learning, more jobs will be automated and permanently disappear from the labor market. It is also well understood at this point that artificial intelligence, when not managed productively, exacerbates inequity by taking human bias against others, particularly people of color, and magnifying, expanding, and further institutionalizing those biases. However, there are also scenarios in which improved technologies and access to meaningful data lead to increased autonomy for workers who are armed with more accurate and comprehensive information. And in the best, most progressive workplaces, data, technology, and data-supported fields such as behavioral economics will help make work more productive and fulfilling. The current pandemic has sped up shifts that were already underway, including in higher education. A recent Ernst & Young study commissioned by the Lumina Foundation stated that American higher education as a whole is 25% over capacity for what is actually needed. The pace of mergers, consolidations, and institutional closures picked up significantly in 2020. Staff and faculty are at risk, so are programs and even institutions. So what does it mean to have to live with the vigilance about change that I referred to a minute ago? In addition to the technical skills and knowledge that are already a part of your programs, I believe that there are other fundamental components of an education that we need to offer our students in order for them to be prepared for the future of work. An ability to manage uncertainty and navigate through ambiguity, an understanding that they will perpetually be adapting to new technologies. They need skills and strategic thinking to navigate an industry where jobs are disappearing and adapt themselves to new circumstances. They have to think about what they can do that a machine or computer cannot. Our graduates need an ethical underpinning for their work, a sense of social justice, and an ability to speak up and advocate constructively in the workplace and in society more generally. And they need a willingness to actively step outside of their personal echo chambers and make connections with others whose backgrounds and perspectives differ from their own. In sum, I believe that we need to graduate students with the following traits for work: curiosity, empathy, resilience, adaptability, and proactive thinking. Some of this we can build into the curriculum in a formal way, but much of it we have to teach through modeling behavior and through interactions. What I'm presenting is a lot to ask of you as educators, especially at a time when so many of our institutions are facing massive financial and political challenges. But I do believe that our responsibility as educators of future professionals requires that we go beyond the bounds of technical knowledge and skills for a specific industry, and even beyond the base of liberal arts and sciences that's fundamental to a well-conceived undergraduate education. Some of the ways in which I think we can do this: learning from materials that are multimedia, having students demonstrate communication skills for presenting in those multimedia contexts. This includes writing, and more writing, providing opportunities to grapple with the ethical dimensions of the work, building basic analytical skills and comfort with data, and incorporating creative and current approaches to experiential learning into the curriculum. Perhaps telling you about my own experience can be illustrative. On February 25th, 2016, I was on an airplane with my best friend headed from New York City to New Orleans for a vacation where we were meeting a third friend coming in from the West Coast. Coincidentally, I had learned a few days before that Tulane wanted to interview me as part of a search for a new dean of their college for adults. And I had on my iPad that week's copy of the New York Times Magazine, their annual issue on the future of work. The issue was actually entitled "The Work Issue: Reimagining the Office." 5 years later, that seems both prescient, which I'm sure is what the editors were going for, and ironic, which I'm certain was not. Reading through article after article about creating functional teams, navigating boundaries between work and life, and about the prerogatives and rights of workers got me really excited about the prospect of a new adventure in focusing on the workforce, and about rethinking the roles and responsibilities of an institution, in this case Tulane, in supporting working people and the economy. 5 years later, the school where I now work is drastically different from what it was. One could say that the changes that our faculty and staff made have been fundamentally motivated by two things. First, of course, preparing students to be highly knowledgeable, skilled, and adaptable professionals. And second, making our own working environment into a model of the best aspects of what we believe will be the future workplace, with the organizational culture, values, and attributes of such a workplace supported through ongoing individual and collective effort to manifest all of these characteristics and values. Why does this matter for our students? I really think it does. First, I strongly believe that the traits with which we want to imbue our students and that will make them successful at work at this time of massive change are the same traits that we need to successfully create and navigate our own workplaces. And to go back to that Lumina Foundation report on overcapacity in American higher ed, I would argue that embodying these traits is to some extent a matter of survival for us, as well as for our students, because this kind of approach to work actually makes us more successful and competitive. Second, when we demonstrate that our own workplace is a place that manifests these values and actions, our students can tell the difference. Not only are we taking advantage of an opportunity to teach and model behaviors, but students see it and feel it, and that makes their own education better and helps solidify their connection to us and our institutions. So, we need to think about all of this within the context of our own workplaces. Institutional culture and structure are central to our success. Here's some thoughts about the crucial components of what we need. Clarity around goals and a sense of shared mission and accountability across the institution, along with concrete opportunities for faculty and staff to participate in shaping these goals. An explicit focus on talking about and acting on improving racial equity, a commitment to continuous assessment and improvement, and a sense of urgency in bringing about positive change, supported with a focus on technology and data-driven decision-making and performance assessment. Not too much attachment to organizational hierarchy, with an understanding that stepping outside of hierarchies is frequently a crucial ingredient of innovation. Humility, perspective, and an acute awareness of our own limitations. And finally, a willingness to make difficult decisions. Unfortunately, one of the other hallmarks of this approach is that you are never actually done, because none of us is ever as good as we can be, and the world around us never stops changing. I know it is a lot to ask. At a time when all of us are dealing with stress and multiple and conflicting demands, both personal and at work, some of us are fearful for our own institutions and for our jobs. And here I am, saying that we have to expand our scope and thinking about how to effectively teach and prepare our students for the future, that there is no clear roadmap for how to do so, and that it isn't even a one-time project, but rather must be constantly revised. I'm not claiming success for my own school. These changes take years to pay off. Nor would I claim that this is easy to do personally. I can't give you advice about how to navigate and find balance. I struggle with it myself as much as anyone does. But for better or worse, this is the world we live in. Like I said at the beginning, it is daunting, but I also think it is exciting. I look forward to your comments and reactions. Thanks again for this opportunity.